I'd like to dig below the surface a little bit, David. Tell me, how does one become the clerk? What's your background?
I started as a research officer in the graduate intake in the Department of Defence, and as you know, sort of a lot of people do, start their careers as a graduate in the public service. And I spent a couple of years in defence, and then I worked out defence probably wasn't really my bag, and I was quite interested in working for the Parliament, and I actually applied simultaneously for jobs in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and I was actually successful in both jobs and for one reason or another chose the House of Representatives, and so here I am. Yeah, I was just very interested in the work. I started in our parliamentary committees, where many of our staff do commence. And so I was very interested in that research, analytical and writing side of the work in the committee office, and spent a lot of time working in the committee office. And then realised that, yeah, there was just an enormous amount of diversity and interest in all the work that the department does. So I worked in the sergeant's office, in the table office and so on, and just got a real appreciation for the diversity and the continuing interest of all the work that the department does.
You've been here all these years. That means you've been at old and new Parliament House. You've seen many comings and goings, lots of toing and froing, lots of changes. What are the things that really have stayed with you over the years?
There wasn't enough room for all the staff in old Parliament House, and the committee office was actually physically located separately, but I did, of course, visit old Parliament House for committee meetings and to meet members and so on. So I had a bit of a feel for old Parliament House. You know, this is a very different environment up here. It's you know, much less intimate. Members are they're much further from each other. You know, members even shared offices in old Parliament House. The ministry was interspersed with members' offices, whereas here we have a quite distinctive ministerial wing. You know, just an enormously, a much bigger chamber than we had in the old place, much longer corridors, not that opportunity for members to meet as frequently, and I'm sure it's enormously changed the culture of the place and the way that the place operates. So to me that'd be the biggest change. I think just the physical changes that have resulted from moving to this new building are perhaps sort of underestimated. I mean, the influence of the media I think has been enormous, and that's just reflected in the development of the new media and the impact that social media and so on is having. But the media's had an enormous impact on the way that Parliament operates. Again, perhaps underestimated. You know, the televising of proceedings commenced here in the new Parliament House, and that's had an enormous impact on question time and other times in the House. So they're probably the major sort of things I think that have had an influence. But you know, I mean, there's only one member, Philip Ruddock, who was here when I started, and so, you know, effectively I've seen all 149 members sort of come and go, and some of them have come and gone once or twice. So you know, you do get a sense of the place changing. You know, the expectations of members I think are very different. Their needs and desires are very different. I think the political atmosphere is, I mean, it's always been willing, but perhaps it's even more willing now. So yeah, lots and lots of changes I think that have, I'm sure, had a significant influence. Any
personal highlights, David?
I'm not an elected person, so for me it's an enormous privilege to come each day onto the floor of the House of Representatives. I mean, I used to do that as the sergeant and then as a deputy clerk and clerk, and I mean, to me that was an enormous privilege to have that opportunity as a non-elected person. So for me the highlights are just some of those terrific occasions in the chamber, which have been you know, enormously historically significant. I mean, the apology to the stolen generations, the passage of significant pieces of legislation. You know, every budget day is a significant day in the life of the House. So for me the highlights are just those opportunities, you know, when the House operates at its best, I suppose. And of course, you know, the opposite of that is that there's the occasional low lights when perhaps the House is not operating at its best. Some of those trickier times at question time when perhaps you'd prefer to be somewhere else. You know, those are the times that you sort of probably tend to try and forget about. But no, I mean, just an enormous privilege, and there's just been so many occasions that have been of such enormous historical significance, and to have been, you know, a part of that without being an elected person, I think is a tremendous privilege. Yeah.
David Elder, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea.
For more interviews with key players inside the House, see the About the House TV website.